You're just one great hire away from all of the money that you want.
When you have a business as booming as mine, you're not doing it on your own.
So we place talent a few times a week.
My job is making sure that we have the right people on the team.
A who problem, not a how problem.
I will encourage them, invest in them.
Give up a teensy bit of that control.
The best people will not tolerate a suppressive leader.
You can sit in on a group of entrepreneurs, listen to the discussion for 60 seconds, and know how much money they make within a rough estimate, or what level of the business that they're working, if they're employees, like where they sit on the org chart, because of what level of conversation they're having. And so, at the highest level, you're talking about allocation of resources. That's all it is. It's just capital and human allocation.
Yep.
And one level maybe below that would be human capital, which is how are we going to attract talent? How are we going to train talent? How are we going to get compounding returns on talent? Because I like the saying, but you're just one great hire away from all of the money that you want.
Yep.
But the thing is that I think the catch of that ism is that you have to become the type of person that person wants to work for.
Totally.
And that's
why you create
the
content.
hard part.
Yep.
That's like, sure. Yeah, of course. What's his name? Tim Cook, right, of Apple. He could probably grow your business, but he wouldn't work for you.
Yep.
And so like that has been always at the forefront of Leila and I's mind and that's part of what we do with the brand stuff, which is we want the brand to stand for things that, because we're just as aggressively advertising at a tactical level, we're more aggressively advertising from a transactions perspective for the talent we put in portfolio companies. So we place talent, a few times a week. We have 3-4 leadership positions a week that we fill in our portfolio companies compared to how many deals we do at the portfolio level. And that's the highest return on capital that we have is buy someone, and I say buy just in the capital term, buy talent for $200,000 a year, make $20 million a year.
Yep. No brainer.
Great trade, right? Yep. And one of the big misnomers, I think that one of the biggest mistake entrepreneurs make, myself included, when I was earlier on, is that I didn't understand the difference between A and B talent. You can pay a talent 30% above market and get 10x the output. And like, there's no sense in ever paying below market, in my opinion, because you just you can get so much more for the extra premium that you pay that it's one of the best, it's like the best bet in Vegas.
Yep.
You know what I mean? The best trade you can make is that premium to bring the right person in that's 10 times more effective.
Yep. Have you heard of the Keith Raboy? He has this expression about barrels versus bullets.
Mm-hmm.
So the concept here, this guy was, I think he was like a COO of Square or Block, whatever you want to call it. He's high up at PayPal. But anyway, so what he said was like, look, in an organization, you need barrows. These are going to be the ones that you give them a problem or like something, and they'll just solve it, right? Yeah. And then the bullets, like they will do what you tell them to do, but you should always hire a barrel whenever you meet a barrel. And that's kind of what you're saying here. And to me, like I love playing poker, right? Like I'm a gambler at heart, but in business, it's like unfair. It's like you make this hire, it's like upside is unlimited.
Well, right? It's gotten to the point now where we basically have open interviews. Yeah. So if we see someone who's incredibly talented, we will hire them without really having a clear position for them yet. And I'm saying that's if we have an incredibly talented person. Like we had someone recently who was an exceptional sales director, had huge experience, was an ex-CEO, like all this great stuff, great value fit. And one of our portfolio companies, we were about to make the recommendation that you should take this person. And they were like, we don't think we want to do it. And so we hopped on the phone and we were like, you're wrong. We have a lot more context on this. You should do it. And it ended up somebody from like their outside had said, you shouldn't do it. And they had that person had no context. Yeah. And they were like, we actually wanted to hire him, but we didn't trust ourselves, which by the way is huge part for entrepreneurs is like you make one bad hire and then you think, I can't hire people. Like you're going to make mistakes. It's part of the game. You get better and better at pattern recognition. And so this person had talent. It was clear. Yeah. And so we were like, just so you know, we're hiring him no matter what. And so we're either going to put him in your company or putting him with somebody else. And they were like, okay, no, we want him. Yeah. And so it's like, I think that's the level of talent is like, you should feel FOMO when you're talking to the person. Yeah. And here's the other litmus test that I love. I got this from Leila. If you're not learning on the interview from the candidate about the thing that they're supposed to take over, you shouldn't hire them. Because it means that you know more than them, which means that you're required for them to be successful, which means that they need you and you don't get leverage.
That's a key piece of my job is making sure that we have the right people on the team. I look at it like an acquisition.com, like my 2 best, highest leverage positions to be in are determining who comes on the bus, right? Like who gets a seat on the bus and where do they sit in terms of the team, and then who gets a spot in the portfolio. So a fun fact for you is that the one job description I have wrote the most times and tried and hired for the most is an operator. And when I have asked them what caught your eye, because I always ask people, like, why did you apply for this job? And I find really interesting is that they all said it was the ad. And you know who wrote that ad? Me, who's interviewed the most operators. And so it really does, in my opinion, a lot of it comes down to people take all the steps I tell them to, but they forego how thoughtful they are in writing the copy. Like I really pay a lot of attention to the copy, like the headline that catches their attention, the copy below that, and then the job description copy itself. Because people think, they're like, oh, nobody reads it. But they read every line. Like, I'm not kidding you. They read every line of that job description. And so I write the job description in a way that I know appeals to people. I also build a job in a way that appeals to people. But it also appeals in the way I write it. I'm not going to write it in like a monotonous tone that sounds like everything else when you Google it. And so I think that a lot of people don't pay attention to the steps there. You know, it's like, I think that they put up the ads, they put up the job, they put up the pay, and they forget the little things like speak to the person that you want to hire. And then they will be the ones that apply.
So I'm curious because I look at a really good JD as a sales letter. So like, what goes into yours that sets yours apart?
I mean, I think that, I'll be honest, at the end of the day, the company is what sets it apart, because it'd be like trying to sell a crappy product. You know what I mean? Like it's much easier to just sell a good product, which is like, it's much easier to advertise for a good company. I always start it off talking about the mission and the values. And I know that sounds like cliche, but
this is in the JD.
Yeah. The top of the JD is always about the mission and the values. So when I'm posting a job, the first thing that's there is like, this is the company, this is what we do, this is the mission, and here are our values. If you do not align with those things, then we wish you best of luck. If you do, keep reading. And then I go into the job description. And usually when I think about the job description, when I'm speaking to the person, I'm thinking, what problem does this role solve? And then I speak from that perspective, because I believe that if you speak to the impact somebody's going to have in the organization, that's what's incentivizing for the kind of people I want to work with.
The job to be done.
Yeah, they want to know like that they're going to have meaningful work. And I'm like, here's what I'm dealing with. Like when I advertised for an executive assistant, I said, I'm working from when I wake up to when I go to bed. My email inbox is never at zero. I can't ever get back to my text messages. People have been waiting on me for weeks for things. Projects are disorganized, slipping through the cracks, and I'm losing my mind, and my husband doesn't have a wife. Can you help me? And they're like, I love that, because they want to help and they want to make my life better. And people feel that way, except with the job. They're like, wow, I want to make the company better. And they see the opportunity. And so I think that the more clearly you can define what's the problem that they're solving and what's the impact they're going to have, then I think that the better candidates you'll get, because the best candidates want to have an impact on the organization and they want to know that they can feel it.
There's a Leilaism that Alex just gave me. If the candidate can't teach you something better than the role that they're being interviewed for, like, then you shouldn't hire them.
Yes, in almost all instances.
Now,
there's some roles where you bring someone who has the character and then you train them up on the like sales or like, you know, customer service or something like that, right? Where it's like, you know, you're gonna be training them. But most of the time when people are asking about hiring, it is for roles where like that person is taking over a function where the person hiring them doesn't know how to do it. And I think in those instances, I look for, did I learn something from that interview?
Right.
Was I excited after that interview? Did I feel motivated? Did I feel excited to talk to them again? Like I learned something, I had a perspective shift. And especially if I'm hiring a leader, did they challenge something I said? And not challenge in a way of like, did they try to prove me wrong? But did they provide an alternative perspective that was contradictory to mine that I also think could be right?
Eventually, you have to learn to cut bait quickly. And I think you guys, my sense is you guys have mastered that, right? So I'm trying to get a sense for, or get a framework for the audience here. Because you got to, like, you know pretty quickly when it's also not a fit.
Like when they come in already, you mean?
Yeah, like basically in the first week.
Yeah,
right?
so you mishire.
Yep.
I have this frame, which is, it is completely my fault because either I don't have the skill of picking the right person for that role, or I misunderstood what I was looking for the role, and so I hired the wrong person. That's on me. it's also on me to right the situation. And I think that a lot of founders and CEOs, what they basically do is say like, I'm going to try and make it work. I feel bad. This person because they freaking quit their, think of all the people that are listening to this that are founders. You quit your job. Remember how hard that was? They quit their job to work for you. That is equally as hard.
You changed their life.
Yes, that is a huge life change. And so I don't take it lightly, but I also would feel awful keeping somebody in a company knowing that there was no career path for them. There was no opportunity for them, and that I could not hold up my end of the bargain of this is the opportunity that you get working here. Because whenever somebody's joining me, it's like, I'm not going to bring somebody into my vision if their vision cannot fit within it. But if I'm keeping them in the company because I'm afraid to tell them I made a mistake and your vision does not fit within this one here, that's on me as well. And I'm doing them a disservice, keeping them in the company because I'm preventing them from going to a company that will be able to do that for them.
Right. You talk about engineering a culture where everyone wins. Tell us more about that.
I think that a lot of the times, businesses are built to serve a founder or to serve a customer, but seldom do they think, how do we also serve the employees? And I think that when we built acquisition.com, it was equally, how do we build a place where we can make all the portfolio companies better, as well as how do we make our team better? And I think it doesn't take much more than like an extra lens to think through. The reason a lot of people can't or choose not to build a win-win culture is because they're too busy thinking, you know what? I don't want to put that person on a platform because what if they leave me?
Yep.
And the thing is that people will leave you either way. One way is where you suppress them and they say, F you, I'm going to go find somebody who doesn't suppress me, or I'll go do it on my own. Or you can say, I will encourage them and I will invest in them. They could leave you with everything you've invested, but they're still better off. And you are, because you've learned and you've been a better teacher. Or they could stay.
Yep.
And at the end of the day, you win together. At the end of the day, I also believe that the best people will not tolerate a suppressive leader. I think that the best people will only work for somebody who puts them on a pedestal, not themselves.
How is the content team structured right now? Or you can just mention the key players.
No, I mean, the content team right now, I guess I try to steal a lot from looking at Disney. And so basically, I don't think you can handle more than like 5 execs really well as a leader.
Yeah.
And so you can have sort of like 5 chiefs. I've had up to 8 or 10. It's doable. It's kind of miserable. So I basically try to only have 5, which means the head of content is one of the 5 that's allowed to report into me. So I guess maybe it's more reasonable to say I spend 1/5 of my time on content, but this gentleman heads all of our teams. So he heads we channelize by segment, or we segment by channel. So he heads somebody who heads all of the video components of our business. So that's Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. And anything that would be video related is run by another guy. Then there's a written social team. So that's like Twitter, some of the written stuff we do for Instagram, LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And then there's a newsletter editorial team. And that's kind of put together like a traditional newsroom. And actually, we just had a really exciting hire there. So that's cool. So we have a new head of content. And then underneath him, he also has a content ops team that just manages all the difficulties between those two.
Posting, whatever.
And is it on brand or not? And what happens, when we do something that we don't like and we need to get rid of it, all that jazz.
And just to be clear, so for like Twitter, LinkedIn, is there just one person focused on each channel, or is it one person just touching the written social platforms?
Right now, and I'm not sure this is the right way to do it, but there's just one person.
Got it.
And almost all of it stems from like 2 things: our newsletters and our YouTubes. And so they sort of affect everything else that we do.
Those are your pillar pieces, right?
Those are the pillar pieces.
What do you think your superpower is? Because ideally, you're spending most of your time on that.
My unique skill, I think, overall, usually is a stack with everybody, right? I can't remember who came up with that. I think that was Scott Adams, the skill stack.
The skill stack, yeah.
And so if I think about my unique skill stack, part of it is certainly that I've done acquisitions for a long time. Another part of it is media or content. Probably another part is selling people on a vision that I have so I can get other people to come along with me. My day, often, I something I stole from Jay Papasan, which is the one thing. So basically I write down what's my one thing every single day that if I did this, 80% of what I need happens, and I get it from 20% of the action. So if I did this one thing, how could I make everything else irrelevant? And usually that one thing is a who problem, not a how problem.
Yep.
It's who can I hire? Who can I go to? Who can I talk to that's an expert on this, as opposed to figuring it out myself?
Can you elaborate more on that?
And so the who is this is something that nobody's going to care about if they've never managed people, never led a company. Like when I wanted to start a new company, I would think, one, I don't want to start it. I want to buy it because I want profits from day one. Two, who could I go to that's an industry expert in that industry that could help me do the acquisition faster? Three, who could operate that company so that I don't actually have to do it day to day? And then four, another who could oversee them plus all the execution of the varying companies that I have so that I don't have to be inside of each individual one. All of those, you don't hear me for once say, how do I do X? How do I run a laundromat? I don't actually know the answer to that. But what I do know is the multiple guys that I have that run them for me. And it's a win for them because they make a bunch of money too.
Right. Yeah, I want to bookmark that one, come back to maybe how you're thinking about incentives and compensation, because again, if you're going to hire the best, like the best also need the best compensation.
Yeah.
It's hard.
What people don't realize is that when you have a business and I'm very fortunate, booming is mine, you're not doing it on your own.
And how's your team structured right now? How's like your core team structured?
I have agents for every sector of my business. So I have a brandings agent, I have a podcast agent, book agent, TV agent, touring agent, speaking agent. Anything I do, I got one.
Yeah.
My management team kind of touches everything. They're the ones who liaise between all the different teams. They're the ones who are getting on the phone with clients to be like, what is the ask? We're going to go back to Viv. Save her the 30 minutes on the phone call. I have my attorney. She touches anything that requires a signature, anything that is a contract, anything that even gets a little, that doesn't pass the smell test, she looks at. My business managers handle anything that comes with a dollar sign. So that's accounting, accounts receivable, that's bookkeeping, anything. Even, tax optimization.
Mm-hmm.
They were even able to expedite getting me a new passport.
Yeah.
Like they do everything.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, they're great. And then my PR team, they handle anything that relates to press, whether that be, Vivian's great and awesome, but also Rich AF, my book, or Net Worth and Chill, my podcast, or, just putting me into different spaces that I otherwise maybe wouldn't be considered in, because finance does touch everything. Finance isn't cool for the sake of money. It's cool because with money, you get to travel. It's cool with money, you get to purchase products in the beauty space that make you feel really confident. It's cool because with extra dollars, you're able to host a dinner party. Here's how you should do it. There's different sectors I can play into. Then I have 2 people who work part-time for me, help me write the newsletter, help me with some social media stuff, manage the website. And then I have 1 full-time employee. She's salaried. She's in the room with us. And she's the best. She's the bee's knees. She keeps me on my A game, makes sure everything goes smoothly. And frankly, I call her my assistant, but it's so much more than that. I would say her job isn't running my dry cleaning. Her job is to help me with any task that I would personally do that she can help me do in a time period to get me to do them faster. So that's helping me ideate. That's helping me, manage my calendar, because that's crazy. It's outlining business plans for the future. It's thinking about where the business is going to be in 5 years. And it's a really powerful opportunity for me to give up a teensy-weensy bit of that control, because this is my baby. I grew it from the ground up. But eventually, if I want it to get to be at a certain size, I'm not going to be able to do everything.
Yeah.
And to have someone who can start to take some of that off of my plate, the hope is over time, she'll run an entire line of my business. And I'll be like, all right, this is your problem. You deal with it. And then maybe she'll be able to train the next person, and then I give them another line of business. I'm like, okay, this is your problem. You deal with it. At the end of the day, maybe I can just be on-screen talent. Let me know when I show up.
Yeah.
And that's
I love it.